Hi there, I'm going to be talking about Melody Beattie and her story of recovery today. My name is Suzanne Papaconstantino, and this is her addiction recovery testimony from her interview with Benny Hinn. Here's a picture of Melody Beattie. So who she is and her history. She's sold millions of books, including Codependent No More and Beyond Codependency. She's been called an American phenomenon by Time magazine, and medical schools have made her books recommended reading. So she was born in 1948. At 12, she was abducted and molested when she refused candy from a stranger. And she came from a family full of pain. She carried more pain than she could cope with as a child. She had 8 stepfathers. She started drinking at lunch. It was the only time she felt good, or what she thought felt normal. She thinks she had clinical depression from trauma without knowledge of the labels then. So when she talks about her disease, she says she used dishonesty and denial, which is common in alcoholics who lie about their use. And she was a full-blown daily drinker at 12 years old. She had blackouts and lost track of how much she drank. Her mother was abusive. Her father was an alcoholic and left when she was about 2 or 3. And she believes in the disease model of addiction, which says that the whole family is affected. So at 17, she thought the solution was to let go of alcohol and only do drugs, and she did heroin. So her childhood addiction was not recognized, and there was no treatment for children at that time. But a wise judge told her she was responsible for her own behavior, which she never knew. He gave her a choice, treatment or prison, and she was being asked to give up her identity. That had saved her life. Alcohol had saved her life, and without it, it was too painful to bear. So her treatment was at a state hospital, and she lied and used through her treatment. But she did cut down on her use, and sanity approached during her stay. She prayed for the first time and asked God for help to get sober, and she came to believe. And she could no longer lie. She had had a spiritual awakening. She went to a counseling group, and she learned that in order to help people, she had to help herself first. So she started to not go around those who used, and her process was to change everything in her life, including her friends, where she went, and what she did. She used to have trouble writing words in treatment. By this interview, she'd written 18 books. So she thought she was in control, but she had to see that drugs were in control of her. And a couple of times when she nearly slipped, it was first when her house burned down. One room turned to ash, except a Bible was spared. She bought alcohol, and she opened her Bible and read the verse, "You cannot serve 2 masters." And God spoke to her, and she turned her writing over to God. Second, her son died at 12 years old. So some of her underlying issues, she believes what Dr. Drew Pinsky's statement says, that 100% of people who need treatment are medicating childhood trauma or acute pain. Beattie understood that medicating one's grief becomes a process of dependency on drugs and people. And to break dependency, you have to admit and tell the truth, because we become good at hiding it from ourselves. And dysfunctional family systems cause imbalance and disease. So Beattie got invited to speak at her Christian Academy High School. She told the students it's okay to have their problem, but they are not the problem, and it can be solved. The principal had found a picture of her when she had attended that high school, but she had destroyed all pictures of her, and the picture triggered many unfelt feelings from childhood. Friends encouraged antidepressants, but she chose to live through 4 months of pain, and her healing was about feeling the pain. People get outside of themselves, disassociate their trauma reactions. So Melody suggests EMDR, willingness to feel and get out of the pain. To let it go, you have to go through it, feel it, and neutralize it. So control does not work. Whatever we try to control controls us. So let it go and set yourself free. We become enmeshed in trying to control. We have to change from the inside out. Let go of our need to control. When we're hyper-focused on another, it results in being unable to see how crazy we are, and we lose control. So alcohol can control us through another person's use. And trying to keep someone from drinking is being locked into a non-working behavior and trying harder. So she started doing family groups, but the members could tell about other people's problems and feelings and goals, but not their own. So for self-care, she suggests letting go, focusing on yourself and feeling, learning self-care instead of controlling others, and feel your own feelings, your own thinking. And we are responsible for our choices, our goals, and our lives. And we're not an appendage to another person. We're a whole human being. All right, so the stages of change. Behavior change happens in stages. So when the judge offered Beattie treatment or jail, she was in the pre-contemplation stage. She was entering into the contemplation stage because her solution, intoxication, was threatened to be taken away from her. She had to go into preparation where her intention was to change because of the pros outweighed the cons. So her action stage of change was initiated gradually because the structure she had in treatment started to influence her choices on the inside. And lasting change, we talked about her near slips, which involved profound loss, but her approach had been to go through and experience the feelings of the pain of her past. And this is part of her maintenance. So the maintenance stage is not as intense as the actions phase because the substances are gone. And Prochaska says that a person does not have to work as hard, but some see maintenance lasting a lifetime, such as the recovery movement. But Prochaska thinks after 5 years of total abstinence, relapse is less likely. And the maintenance stage is not stable. It can happen, like relapse can happen when there is distress, like in Beattie's. Like Beattie's maintenance of her addiction and her codependency issues. So her near relapse involved feelings of distress, and her writing is a form of expression. As a helpful way to abstain. So the Townsend model says that change can happen in attachment. And Melody experienced this when she was loved by a technician in treatment, and she grew in her ability to feel her feelings. She also grew in integration when she accepted that she had a problem and she was not the problem. So Dode's approach to strengthening recovery says that growth in adulthood will happen when developmental shortcomings of adolescence are over. So the shortcomings of adolescence, they mix in with the addictive personality and they make adolescence a harder time to abstain. But when a person's growth in adulthood is mature, it will result in an easier time weathering distressing experiences. So Dodes describes adolescent addiction as involving suffering because of the internal psychology of addiction, and the risk for addiction is there when they grow into adulthood. So if life circumstances re-stimulate the addictive process, you have to, you've overcome the developmental burdens when you grow into adulthood, and that will assist in not resuming old addictive behavior when similar feelings of hopelessness occur. But Dode's quote says, she should bring to bear all of her adult capacities to deal with her addiction. So growing in adulthood helps with the prognosis of addiction. And when recovering in codependency or enabling, Dode says that treatment in couples is suggested as a way to limit enabling, meaning help is only offered in a close relationship when the partner is willing to go into treatment. So thank you so much for participating for joining me in my presentation. Have a good one.